Guys, welcome back. Today we're talking about engine heat. Join me, won't you? Without getting too far into aerodynamics, airflow is designed to come in, pass through the radiator, go over the motor, and back down under the car. What we're going to do is we're going to utilize that principle of airflow coming over the motor and back down under it to aid us in our cooling. So what are our options to keep heat out? We can wrap it, put some sticky stuff on it, or you can do what the OEM guys do and make us a heat shield. That'll put a barrier between the object and what we're trying to protect, and it'll give the air a chance to flow over it and cool it down, right? It'll have the same principles of reflecting the heat. It'll also insulate without having to use a large insulator. This is the option that I'm going to choose. Amazon got me some aluminum embossed sheet. This was, I think, 25 bucks for this big old roll. I think they design it or want you to just wrap it around your muffler or whatnot. They even give you some stainless steel clamps. That's not what we're going to do here. Here, we're going to mimic what the factory does, because they have way more engineering hours and tests and knowledge and degrees than I do. And brand new cars aren't as hot. So we're going to figure out what area we're working with. I'm working around this cat. It's a high flow cat. It's kind of small, but it gets really hot. And the floorboard right here is where most of my heat's generated. So I'm going to be looking at this, figure out real quick what I'm going to do for mounting, and kind of keep that in my head when I'm worried about what size I need. So I'm probably going to push this out to just over top of this cross member here. So I'm going to go from probably this dimension out, and I'll probably run some bolts through the floor with some standoffs to bolt this to, and then I don't know, hose clamp or something on this side to keep it nice and tight, and have that stand off from the floor. So I'm going to want this to go up into the tunnel a little bit, and probably up the front of the firewall here a little bit, because it's right at the firewall. So we're going to measure out that and see how big of a piece we need to make. Stuff is kind of thin. Cuts really nice with just some sheet metal pliers, but you can probably use scissors with it. I went a little larger than my dimensions here. I think this is a 16-inch square, because on the edges it's kind of sharp. So I'm going to fold those over, and I'm going to go up a little on each side of the firewall and up into the trans tunnel. So let's get this started forming, and I'll bring you back in. So here's our panel, roughly shaped up. As you can see, these little ribs on the side gave it some strength, if you will. Thing's pretty strong. So how are we going to mount this? Well, glad you asked that. Just going to set the standoff here. Another washer on the other side to sandwich it in, and a nut on the bottom to hold it. Then I can cinch the two nuts together, and it's going to lock this in place and give me that little bit of a standoff gap. Well, I get you in here and see this guy installed. As you can see, the standoffs worked pretty well. I ran 4 of them. I don't know if you can be able to see under the car. But that gives me just enough room under here. I got some airflow, and it should prevent the heat around this catalytic converter from getting up into the cabin. We stick with our principles here of the air coming up over and going down. It should be just enough to give an air gap and isolate the heat from entering the cab. So let's fire it up, let it idle, warm it up, and see what happens. So as you can hear, the fan's on. We're up to operating temperature. That means it's right at 198. Now if you look down in here, I'm going to shine this right on the cat. I'm reading on the catalytic converter, you can see that, 380. It's right about 380, 400, somewhere in there. I'm kind of far off, so it's a little skewed. We're going to bring it over to the heat shield. Heat shield's right at 120. Goes up a little bit in the middle there to 150. Well, what does that mean for the inside of the cab? Well, we do have sound deadening, but right there is a bare piece of metal that just has paint coating. And on the inside of the cab, I'm sitting at 78 degrees. Now that may be because the heater's on. It's putting out 120 degrees out of the heater. But that's pretty good in my book. Not much of that heat's making it in the cab. It's just cool. It's a little warmer right here, probably right where the cat's at, 84 degrees, but I'll take it. Right off the cat. Right about 370. Heat shield. We're averaging about, that says 283. Right above the heat shield. Just to be expected. Let's see if I can get the floor under it in that air gap. 83 degrees. That air gap is dropping all that heat. Well, there you have it. It's a little bit of science, some magic, if you will. We got this thing to not be as hot on my feet. Granted, I made one shield for one side catalytic converter. I'm going to duplicate that on the driver's side, and I'm going to continue that down the exhaust to make sure that I don't get that heat soaking me out in the summertime when I'm cruising this thing, which is what we're designing this to do. Thanks for watching that. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. If you want to know about the coating that I used on the floor, check out my previous video about the lizard skin alternative. That was some of the magic that happened here and not having that heat come through the floor. Again, I got that roll of embossed aluminum sheet on Amazon for $25. A couple screws, and we're able to keep our feet nice and cool. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you next time.